In modern warfare, the most powerful weapons are rarely announced. They don't arrive with press conferences or dramatic flyovers. They don't get public budgets or glossy photos. They arrive quietly. They operate silently. And sometimes, they never officially exist at all. This is the story of the RQ-180 precursor, a drone the United States has never publicly confirmed, never officially denied, and almost certainly already flown. The story begins not with an aircraft, but with concrete. In the early 2010s, satellite imagery analysts noticed something unusual at a remote airbase in the western United States. New hangars appeared almost overnight. Long, smooth, windowless structures with unusual proportions. They didn't resemble traditional fighter hangars, and they weren't large enough for bombers. They looked purpose-built, designed around a specific shape. At the same time, aviation observers noticed strange patterns in restricted airspace notices. Entire corridors closed at high altitude for hours at a time. Flight paths that appeared briefly on radar and then vanished. No transponders, no radio chatter, no public explanation, nothing visible was happening. And in aviation, nothing happening often means something very important is underway. Not long after, a designation began circulating quietly in defense circles, not in press releases, not in budgets. Just whispers between people who had reason to know. RQ-180. The name itself followed convention. RQ for reconnaissance, unmanned. The number unusually high, suggesting a long classified development history. But unlike the RQ-4 Global Hawk or the RQ-170 Sentinel, the RQ-180 never appeared in public documentation. No program office, no official funding line, no acknowledgement at all. Yet insiders spoke about it as if it were already operational. They described it carefully, almost cautiously, as a next-generation intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance platform. ISR, a spy aircraft. Only this one wasn't meant to be seen. To understand why a system like this had to exist, you need to understand the limits of satellites. Satellites are powerful, but they're predictable. Enemy nations know their orbits. They know when one will pass overhead. They can hide equipment, shut down radars, move assets, or deploy decoys at exactly the right moment. Satellites observe. They don't linger. What the US needed was something different. An aircraft that could stay. Something that could loiter for hours or days, change course, change altitude, and adapt in real time. Something that could operate inside defended airspace without triggering alarms. That meant stealth. Extreme stealth. Not just radar stealth, but infrared, acoustic, and electronic silence. This wasn't an aircraft designed for speed. Speed creates heat. Heat creates signatures. Signatures get noticed. This aircraft was designed to disappear. Based on everything analysts know, the RQ-180 would almost certainly be a flying wing, a shape that minimizes radar reflections by eliminating vertical tails and protruding fuselage elements. Engine inlets buried deep within the structure. Exhausts flattened and cooled to reduce infrared visibility. Edges precisely aligned to scatter radar energy away from enemy sensors. Northrop Grumman was repeatedly linked to the project. That matters. Northrop doesn't experiment publicly. The company built the B-2 Spirit. It's building the B-21 Raider. When Northrop delivers something, it tends to work, quietly and effectively. This wasn't a drone meant to fly over permissive airspace or low-threat environments. It was designed for the most heavily defended skies on Earth. And here's where the story becomes uncomfortable. By the time rumors of the RQ-180 gained momentum, US military strategy had shifted. Instead of relying on a small number of high-profile platforms, planners began emphasizing survivability through distribution. No single aircraft could be critical. No single loss could matter. Unmanned systems fit that philosophy perfectly. If an RQ-180 were detected or even shot down, there would be no pilot, no rescue mission, no prisoners, no dramatic escalation, unless someone chose to acknowledge it. Silence became a tool. If you're enjoying stories about hidden military systems and the quiet technologies shaping modern warfare, consider subscribing. This channel focuses on real programs, documented history, and the gray space between what's known and what's deliberately left unsaid. In 2011, that gray space narrowed. Briefly, Iran captured a U.S. stealth drone, the RQ-170 Sentinel, a flying-wing UAV that had been operating deep inside Iranian airspace. Iranian television displayed it to the world, largely intact. That moment mattered, because it proved something many suspected but few could confirm. The United States was already flying stealth drones deep inside hostile territory. But the RQ-170 wasn't large, it wasn't long-range enough, and it wasn't designed for prolonged, persistent surveillance in the most contested environments. It was never meant to be the final answer. Analysts immediately began asking a dangerous question. If the US was willing to risk an RQ-170, what was flying that no one had ever seen? The RQ-180's timeline remains deliberately vague. Some believe development began in the early 2000s as a classified successor to older ISR platforms. Others suggest the program accelerated after the Sentinel incident, incorporating lessons learned from exposure. What's consistent across all accounts is this. By the mid-2010s, U.S. officials spoke as if persistent airborne surveillance inside denied airspace was already a solved problem. They spoke calmly, confidently, as if the capability already existed. The RQ-180 is not believed to be armed. That's important. It doesn't drop bombs, it doesn't fire missiles, it watches. But intelligence decides wars, knowing where forces move, when they move, which systems activate and when they go silent. That information feeds everything else: fighters, bombers, cyber operations, diplomacy, and deterrence. In modern conflict, the side that sees first controls escalation. The RQ-180 was designed to see without being seen. One of the strangest aspects of the program is how clean it appears. Most advanced military projects leave traces: leaked documents, contractor chatter, classified budget lines that eventually surface. Not this one. Some analysts believe it was funded through deeply buried special access programs. Others suggest it was hidden inside unrelated initiatives to mask costs. Either way, its financial invisibility mirrors its operational philosophy. If you never admit it exists, you never have to explain it. And that ambiguity creates doubt. Enemy planners can't assume clear skies. Radar operators hesitate. Commanders delay movements. Communications become cautious. Even if nothing is flying overhead, the possibility that something might be there changes behavior. That's not technology, that's psychology. And it's incredibly effective. If this kind of deep, quiet military history interests you, subscribe. More stories like this are coming. Here's an unsettling thought. If the RQ-180 exists, and evidence strongly suggests it does, then it has likely flown for thousands of hours, over oceans, over borders, possibly over places you'd never expect. You wouldn't hear it, you wouldn't see it, and you wouldn't know it was there. No contrails, no engine roar, just data flowing silently into secure rooms. Some believe the RQ-180 wasn't even the final platform, but a precursor, a testbed proving concepts now embedded in even more advanced systems. Autonomous mission management, sensor fusion, long-endurance stealth operations without continuous human input. If that's true, then the RQ-180 wasn't the destination. It was rehearsal. Weapons are usually designed to send a message, to be seen, to be counted. The RQ-180 was designed to be forgotten. And that may be the most powerful feature of all. Because if something never officially existed, you never know how long it's been watching.